Hi, I'm Lana with Red Ice. Oprah is a woman who has been supported by a white audience. I remember seeing her as a young girl. White women made Oprah filthy rich, nearly $3 billion rich, but that's not good enough. She has made comments like this.
And there's a whole generation, I say this, I said this, for apartheid South Africa, I said this for my own, community in the South. There are still generations of people, older people, who were born and bred and marinated in that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die.
By racist white people, she means people who don't want their neighborhoods enriched by so-called diversity, bringing crime and anti-white hate. People who want to be left alone to live with whom they choose. But black folks can't ever be racist or prejudiced, even when they say all white people have to die.
And they just have to die.
Yet Oprah has never actually experienced overt racism herself.
Several years ago, I was in France, and I had an incident at a store there, and I, complained about, which I knew was clearly racism. And because it only happens so often where I am directly confronted with it, where it's so obviously in your face.
She has to reach to some far-fetched story about a high-end boutique in Zurich that allegedly did this.
I was in Zurich, and I had gone there for Tina Turner's wedding. And I'd gone out to go shopping, and I'm in a store, name brand store, and I say to the woman, I'm by myself, absolutely nobody else with me, and I say to the woman, I would like to see that bag on the shelf. And she says, no, that one's too expensive. I'll show you this one. She did. And she proceeded to tell me about the bag and how the bag was created for Jennifer Aniston, and it was and that you should want this one. And I said, no, but I really want to see the black one there, the black one, which I think it was, lizard or alligator or something, and I'm sure it was expensive. And she said, no.
When I heard this, I knew immediately it was a cultural and language issue, which she amped up to be all about race. The saleswoman responded and said, I wasn't sure what I should present to her when she came in, so I showed her some bags from the Jennifer Aniston collection. It was innocent, but since the European gal was a lowly shop girl and Oprah is a billionaire with a talk show, no one got the real story. Oprah claimed a similar racist shop girl story happened in France, too. Sure it did. Oprah calls white Southerners who want to live with other white Southerners racist, and whites celebrating other whites also racist. Yet blacks celebrating other blacks is a moving and magical experience.
Watching Anne Bancroft present the Oscar for Best Actor at the 36th Academy Awards. She opened the envelope and said 5 words that literally made history. The winner is Sidney Poitier. Up to the stage came the most elegant man I had ever seen. I remember his tie was white, and of course his skin was black, and I'd never seen a black man being celebrated like that.
Although blacks outnumber whites in the global population, it's no problem for them to be proud of their own and want to see all blacks win awards. They have Black Entertainment Awards, magazines just for them, Oprah hosted a ball just for African Americans, and of course they have their own countries. But if white people want to honor their own in an exclusive gathering, it's a KKK meetup. Whites are supposed to celebrate and include everyone but their own people. After talking about her poor single mother who struggled and worked to the bone.
As my mom came through the door, bone tired from cleaning other people's houses.
Because no white women ever have to struggle, she transitions to a story of a black woman who 76 years ago was allegedly raped by 6 white men.
When she was abducted by 6 armed white men, raped and left blindfolded by the side of the road, coming home from church. They threatened to kill her if she ever told anyone.
76 years ago. That's how far back she has to go to find a story like this, because statistically, white men don't rape black women, and if it did happen today, everyone damn well knows it would be a worldwide spectacle, and the man would pay to the full extent of the law. It's just a fact that statistically it is black men in America who rape the most. It is also a fact that the largest category of rape in America is black on white. 60% of black girls have experienced sexual abuse at the hands of black men before reaching the age of 18, according to an ongoing study conducted by Black Women's Blueprint. It's then no surprise that in Africa, women greatly suffer from violence and rape. But Oprah won't be bringing attention to the abuse of men within her own racial family. It is also true that before the migrant invasion into Europe by non-European men, there wasn't a rape epidemic like there is now. These hypocrite women who shout #MeToo and talk about black women raped by white men 76 years ago won't tell you these facts because it's racist to point out the perps doing most of the raping across the world today. They won't be starting campaigns for the ongoing violence and rape of European women by non-European migrants, which is actively covered up by governments to not be racist. Germany, Sweden, and France's rape rates have skyrocketed thanks to an open border policy. Sweden was once the most peaceful and safest country in the world. But now Swedish women live in fear of violence and rape at the hands of men, mostly from North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And how does ultra-leftist feminist Sweden respond? By covering it up because it's racist and Islamophobic to point out who's doing the raping. And how did the extreme leftist German government respond to the mass sexual assaults on New Year's Eve by non-European men? They purged the word rape from the many police reports. Oprah won't be giving speeches on the Rotherham, UK child abuse scandal where 1,400 European girls were sexually exploited by non-European immigrants, and how the government covered it up to not be racist. In reality, today in 2018, non-white men can rape white European women and get away with it. Don't hold your breath for Oprah and the #MeToo movement to cry for the Swedish woman in a wheelchair who was gang raped by 6 non-white migrants for hours and who were later released. And Sweden is the most feminist country on the planet. You see, rape only matters when it's white men doing the raping. You think this is a one-off where non-European rapists go free? Think again. Here's just a few recent examples of many which the media and governments try to cover up in order to push their agenda of open borders and multiculturalism. 5 non-white men raped a woman in Stockholm. They found her in a stairwell, bashed her head in the wall, and raped her. It was on CCTV cameras. They claimed she wanted it. 5 rapists were acquitted. A Turkish man in Germany raped a woman and left her incapacitated. The judge argued that in the mentality of the Turkish cultural circle, what the woman had experienced as rape might be considered merely wild sex. The judge did not convict the rapist. Last month in Finland, Yusuf Mohammed Aboud was acquitted of raping a 10-year-old girl. You see, it would be Islamophobic to find him guilty of rape. For white women in South Africa and Zimbabwe, being tied up, robbed, and raped and ignored by authorities is commonplace today. In America, 2 illegals from Central America raped a 14-year-old girl at school. The charges were dropped. I could go on and on about stories of rape which are covered up and where rapists have been set free in liberal leftist white countries, yet hardly any women of any color speak up for these rape victims who are white. Where is the outcry when non-whites are doing the raping? See, if you point out the pattern which reveals the majority of rape is by non-European men, a feminist will say, what does their race matter? And it would have happened by white men eventually anyway. Rape, according to race, only matters when it's white men who rape. The rape epidemic in Europe can easily be stopped by closing the borders and enforcing deportations. Of course, pig rapists don't just rape white women, they rape their own. Because they come from countries that allow it, countries that don't have laws in place like the West. Women in places like Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia live in true rape cultures. But it seems that raping white, blonde, light-eyed women wherever they are seems to be especially desirable for them, a conquest and revenge based on hate. Young white boys are also targets by invaders into Europe. A disgusting Islamic Iraqi man forced himself onto a 10-year-old boy at a swimming pool in Austria, calling it a sexual emergency. His sentence was a joke. There are countless stories of European women who have been raped by migrants, usually by gangs, and some of these rapes have even been live-streamed. This was unheard of in Europe before the mass invasion by non-Europeans. Women are suffering because of it, yet no feminists are starting hashtags to address the rape epidemic because it's not white men doing the raping. In order to be a feminist, your top priority must be open borders and anti-white male politics above all else.
Well, I've been working for 2 decades for UN Women trying to eradicate violence against women. It is so hard to be heard.
Yeah, she's working to eradicate violence against women, just not when it's clearly coming from non-European men and European nations. That's when it's hard to be heard because of an ongoing cover-up. If you point out stories of non-white on white rape, a leftist will shout, "That's propaganda, it's racist," or my favorite, "It's just a cultural misunderstanding and they need to be taught not to rape." So a European woman cries rape by a non-European man and it's propaganda, or she's lying, it's false rape, or she's racist. But a celebrity can say, "He tried to get me to have sex with him before I could be in his movie," and the entire world stops? White men are least likely to rape. Yes, it happens, but they are least likely. White men are the enforcers of laws that protect women. They've set the precedent across the globe. So-called female empowerment only exists in white countries. So go push female empowerment across Africa and the Middle East and see how it works out for you feminists. Rape is a massive problem in non-white cultures, not in Western culture. Well, not until mass invasion by non-European men. Yes, black women do suffer from rape and violence, but not at the hand of white men, but at the hand of their own. In fact, the woman who started #MeToo did so to address rape in her black community, since rape and abuse is rampant within it. Oprah goes on to say,
She lived, as we all have lived, too many years in a culture broken by brutally powerful men. For too long, women have not been heard or believed if they dared to speak their truth to the power of those men. But their time is up. Their time is up.
Those men she keeps talking about are white men. She is saying white men time is up. She claims white men are silencing and oppressing women, white men are doing the raping, and white men are the problem. All this while she lives in a society built by white men that enabled her to become a billionaire. White women have made history in countless firsts because our men have propelled us. White men put us on a pedestal. It wasn't Middle Eastern men, African men, or Asian men that provided women opportunities of every kind. It was and is white men. And without them, kiss your female rights and empowerment goodbye. White men are the answer when it comes to protecting women. It is Western civilization created by white men and women that laid the law against rape, slavery, and violence. Meanwhile, slavery, rape, and all kinds of horrific abuses still exist in non-white nations today. Women across the world are risking their life to come to countries built by white men. If white men were replaced in their own countries by non-white men, there wouldn't be world peace. There would be catastrophe, violence, more rape, and third world conditions. It would be hell on earth.
I think just to be able to be able to have people start to be comfortable talking about all these things that are so uncomfortable, because when they are not spoken about is when they, proliferate in the darkness.
Yes, I agree. Let's talk about the other pattern we're not allowed to notice, about those white sexual predators in Hollywood, those white men doing dirty things in Hollywood to women.
So a lot of sexual harassment stuff in the news of late, and I couldn't help but notice a very disturbing pattern emerging, which is that many of the predators, not all, but many of them, are Jews.
The majority of them are Jewish. And they make it very clear that they do not identify as white.
People told me that I'm tight for a white dude. What'd you tell them? I'm not white, I'm Jewish. I'm not white, I'm Jewish.
So a black woman started #MeToo to address sexual violence in her community.
Something that I started out of necessity and something that I thought that my community needed, and it's grown over the years.
Then it becomes something about mostly Jewish men in Hollywood.
Jews.
Because yes, they do run it, folks. But then white men are blamed in the end. One more thing. It's a lie that the world would be a better place if women were in control. In Germany, where rape is now an epidemic thanks to open borders and where rapists go free, Angela Merkel is at the helm. In Sweden, where rape is now an epidemic thanks to open borders and where rapists go free, half the politicians are female. In America, Hillary Clinton ran for president, and she covered up countless rapes and abuses of women by her own husband. Oh, and Oprah Winfrey, who may be running for president in 2020, was buddy-buddy with the slimeball Harvey Weinstein, and she knew all about his filthy, dirty behavior. Celebrities supporting Me Too are frauds, as many of them knew what was happening on the Hollywood casting couch, and they said nothing in fear of losing their career where they make millions while complaining women aren't empowered in white male society. So while some actresses in the West say they are traumatized because Harvey Weinstein invited them to his hotel room and asked for a massage, and I get that, he's disgusting, and while others have to really think of a time when they think they were possibly abused.
I love what you said, I love what you said real quick about when it first came out, sexual harassment. You're like, no, it's never happened to me. Then you thought about it and you're like, yeah, it's happened like over 100 times. And I kind of had that same reaction too. So is that all going to change? That's the time's up for me too.
Right, that I think our definitions are different and we've drawn a line in the sand that says this is not acceptable anymore.
Meanwhile, there are countless European women whose names were not released who have been violently gang raped and beaten by foreigners and ignored by governments determined to make white countries multicultural. They didn't have to try super hard to recall their story of sexual brutality and violence. In fact, no one is even being told their story. In the West, we have laws in place to protect women, but only one kind of woman isn't protected. White women who are raped in the name of diversity and cultural enrichment. They are being sacrificed on the altar for multiculturalism. It is these women who are truly oppressed, forgotten, and not heard. While feminists claim to support the voices of all women being heard,
all I want to get across to young women is that you've got a voice and you're allowed to stand up for yourself. You're allowed to, because we're all there with you. Yeah. We are all in it together.
Just not with women like me. In fact, I get attacked by women the most, even when I am speaking against rape.
Well, I think that people are aware now of a power imbalance, and it's something that leads to abuse.
We're here tonight, we wear black to say time's up on this imbalance of power.
Yes, there is a power imbalance and it leads to abuse. It's called leftism, liberalism, and globalism, and it seeks to silence anyone who opposes it.
You're wearing the Time's Up pin tonight. What does it mean to you, Sam?
Well, I think it means that it's really powerful that women feel empowered to speak, and I think that they deserve that, and I think it's time for the rest of us to listen, you know?
Love it. Amen.
Okay, so listen to me. Non-European men and European nations are the main cause of rape and violence against women. White men are trying to prevent it. Funny how these lefties are literally wearing pins that say time's up. Yes, your time is up, you leftist hypocrites, and we won't be silent anymore no matter what comes our way.
Standing up and saying, no more. We're not going to take it anymore. You know, it's that famous line from Network. We're sick as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore.
Want more? Go to redicemembers.com and get a membership for exclusive content. Your membership helps support our work. We can't do it without you. See you on the next one.